I'm going to share with you the 5 steps that will take you from knowing better to actually doing better. Because I know you're here, you're on this search because you have so much awareness, but your actions aren't changing. Your habits aren't changing. Your experience isn't changing. And that's what you're chasing. You're chasing a different experience. So these are the 5 steps that actually walk you through that. So I talk about my method all the time. It's the trigger response method, and it takes you from your trigger to a different reaction, a different response. So I'm going to break it down for you today in a way that is incredibly digestible, and you can just go start applying it right now. And it's also going to help you not feel so much shame and not so much resentment and not so much, frustration with yourself when you keep hitting the same walls over and over and over. And instead of thinking, why am I like this? Why do I keep doing this? Why does the world keep handing me this? You start to change your reaction to it. You start to change your response, and everything actually starts to feel better. Who doesn't want that? Okay, so step 1 is your trigger. That's the external event, and the something from the external world creates an emotional reaction within you. It elicits a response within you. This can be positive and this can be negative. Most people think about triggers as a negative. However, there's a lot of really positive triggers out there that elicit a feeling of love or acceptance. So anything can be a trigger. It can trigger something within you. That's the whole point, right? So we know our trigger. That's so a lot of people know that. They know when people piss them off. They know what they don't like. They know when they get frustrated with other people, right? So triggers, okay, really easy to spot. We just have to start being responsible for them. So we notice the trigger. But the interesting part is step 2 is when we start to notice what we make it mean about us. So now we know that we're frustrated. Now we know that we, don't like something, or that we're reactive to somebody else and we're getting defensive. We know that. But we also have to stop and ask why. So, what am I making this mean about me? What's the story, the belief, the thought pattern attached to this trigger? What do I make that mean about who I am, about who I'm not? So, for example, if you're like kind of waiting for somebody else to appreciate you, and so we use that trigger, we're going to use an example here. We have the trigger of someone feels like they disrespect. Okay, so that's the trigger. Now we have the next step of understanding, like, what do I make that mean about me? Or I make that mean that I'm not seen, I'm not valued, I'm not cared for. This person doesn't, appreciate me. This person doesn't, see me for who I am and all the things that I do and all the things that I give, right? That's what you make it mean. So it makes you feel a certain way. You attach an emotion to the story behind that. And that's really important to understand. You have to be very truthful with yourself here. You have to be very honest about what that is. Well, it means to me that I'm not seeing value heard. Okay. So we have step 1 and 2, trigger. And now we understand what that means, what we make it mean about ourselves. What's the story? What's the conditioning? Where did that come from? Right. So now we're digging into the root. Well, that came from childhood when I was never seen, heard, valued, all those different things, right? That's all in there. Most people know a lot of that stuff to a certain extent. They just don't make the rest of these connections. So step 3 is when we now start to understand what we gain from that. So that's our payoff. Again, if you've followed me for long, you know that I always say this. People hate this part. They don't like it. They don't like to take ownership or actually think that they're gaining something from this behavior or this reaction. Because 1, it's easier to blame somebody else. But 2, it doesn't always feel good. So we're like, why would I be doing something that doesn't feel good? Well, it feeds something within you. It doesn't have to feel good to give you something that you think that you need, or subconsciously you think you need. And so the payoff is what you gain. So there's quite a few different payoffs and different ways that this cycles around, but there's always going to be a sense of safety, right? It's always going to be something that keeps you safe, or keeps a belief that you have, a paradigm that you have safe and intact. And so what I mean by that is, if you think that you're not seen or valued, always thinking that other people don't see or value you, what does that do? Well, it keeps your belief system, the paradigm that you're not valuable, you're not good enough, it keeps it intact. Okay, but now I hear you, Kayla, I don't like that. Why would I want that? Why would that be a payoff for me? Well, that's because that's what you know. That's safety. There's safety in the known, whether you like it or not. You're always going to default to known behaviors. Period. And so when you realize that, and you realize, oh, that's known. Okay, so that's keeping me safe. And then I don't have to take full ownership. I can blame other people, all these different things, right? That's your payoff. You have to understand what that payoff is for you. You're going to keep repeating the patterns and cycles. I promise we're going to keep having this conversation over and over and over and over again until you get it. You have to get your payoff. You have to understand it. There's a lot of different things that break this down. I break this down in my book, The Expansion Code. It's broken down in the TRM workbook. There's a lot of different ways that you can experience different payoffs. So definitely go grab those if you haven't already. Okay, so we're on step 3 of 5. The fourth is one of my favorite steps because this is what you're going to do over and over and over and over again. And this is where the frustration gets to dissolve because it's your choice point. So we start to understand what we are choosing. And so when you think about these patterns or these behaviors, you get to say, what do I keep choosing now? Or how can I choose something differently? And we're going to stay with the same example. You felt disrespected, right? So we usually get to this point where we choose reaction. Oh, you don't respect me, or oh my gosh, you never appreciate anything I do. And instead of doing that, the choice gets to be different of recognizing that action or behavior from the other person doesn't actually have to mean anything about us. We don't have to make it mean that they don't respect us or that we're not seen or we're not valued because we're doing the inner work and we're valuing ourselves. One, we're not waiting for other people to do that. I'll have a whole another video on that. But we're not waiting for other people to validate us. That's not what we're doing here. So we don't need that. We need to make a choice to not be responsive to somebody else's behavior. That's all we can control. We can't control if they do respect us or don't respect us or whatever, but we can control what we make it mean about us and the paradigms and the beliefs and the conditioning that we build about ourselves. That's it. Period. Okay. So our choice point though, because this is where people get really frustrated. So if you're like anybody else who's been on this journey, you get to this point where all this awareness causes frustration. And so now you're incredibly frustrated. I just did a video about this and you're incredibly frustrated about it because it's like you're knowing better, but you're not doing better. Well, that's what the choice point gets to be. The choice point gets to be the point where you dissolve that. Now with the awareness, that does not mean, oh, someone disrespected me or I feel like someone disrespected me. And now I'm going to choose not to react. That's not how this works. What's going to happen is you're going to be reactive and now you're going to say, what am I making this mean about me? Oh, I don't need this anymore in my life. I'm actually going to choose something differently. Now that spiral, you may be pretty deep in that spiral before you notice this. And that's okay. It could be 3 days later. That's okay too, right? As long as you're recognizing it and you're doing that deep inner reflection and you're saying, I did that. I did that. I did that. You can do something differently. Can always change and do something differently. That's the choice point. And what happens is it goes from that 3-day period to maybe a 3-hour period to maybe a 30-minute period to a 3-minute period to like 3 seconds. You're in a spiral and you're choosing differently. And then we get to the point we're at step 5 and our response is different. So we're actually not having to do any of this anymore because now the trigger happened. Somebody, when an old version of us would have been reactive to and thought that they were disrespecting us, we get to this point way over here of it's just a different response. We no longer need all of this because we respond differently, because our paradigm has shifted, because our conditioning is no longer running the show of, I need this, whatever it is. I need to create the chaos. I need to do all this. I need to get validation from other people. That's gone. You've reprogrammed it. That's subconscious rewiring in a nutshell. There's an easy, simple way to rewire what you've always known. And it takes time. You probably built a lifetime around this, like an entire lifetime of you being a certain way, of reacting a certain way, of believing a certain way. Do you really think it's just going to go away when you have one sense of awareness? No, it takes time. It takes reprogramming. So give yourself some grace. And eventually you'll get to that different response. That's the power of the TRM. It is absolutely game changing. So if you've been on this journey for a while, if you keep hitting the same things over and over and over and over again, this is where you can really show up for yourself. This is where you can really make some changes. And so download the TRM guide, go listen to some different videos where I dive deeper into all of this. Get my book, The Expansion Code, where I break this down as well and also teach you the codes that is required that you need to have foundationally to expand into that version of you that I know you're longing for. All of it's in there. I can't wait to hear from you. I can't wait to hear your takeaways. So drop those in the comments as well. See you next time.